Okay, great. Hi everyone, how are you? So we are ready to go. So hello and welcome to the Kellogg application walkthrough session at the application walkthrough event. My name is Nicolás Salinas and I will be your host today. It's my pleasure to introduce Donna Bowman, Senior MBA Admissions Counselor at Stratus. And in this session, we will walk through the MBA application process for Kellogg step by step, offering you practical insights on how to prepare a strong application. There will be time for live Q&A, so please submit your question using the chat, and feel free to upvote the ones that you are most interested in. So let's get started.
Great. Well, this is very timely, so I'm super excited to be with you all today. Going to basically tell you a couple things about Kellogg and what to think about as you go into the application, and then we're actually going to just jump right in and go through. If you have questions, I want you to put them in the chat, and Nicholas is going to help me monitor things. Oh, am I hearing a noise or?
Yeah, let's mute
Yeah.
all participants. So just give me a
Yeah.
second.
No worries. All right, so while we're doing that, I'm just going to go through and start with this presentation. And for some reason, why am I not advancing my slides? Let's see. There I am. So a little bit about me, just a little bit more. I've been with Stratus since 2016. I've actually been on the admission side at UNC Kenan-Flagler. I'm a Kellogg alum, so I have some experience with Kellogg. I actually also, a long time ago, did some alumni interviews for Kellogg. So I also have a little bit of experience seeing some of the admissions piece. I have a leadership storytelling facilitation actually from a Kellogg alum connection. And so I really have more in my toolkit to help people to ask people good questions to help get their best stories out. And that's something I really enjoy about the job. And yeah, so that's just a little bit about me. And I love doing this work with Stratus because we are the most team-based of the admissions consulting firms. All of our MBAs have MBAs from top programs or all our consultants. When you work with us, you are collaborating with the right, so if you work with us on maybe 4 schools, you're going to collaborate with like 5 or 6 professionals that's going to help you really get it's a good process to go through. So that's all I'm going to say about Stratus for right now. What we're going to talk about first is just a little bit of the key dates for when things are due, a little bit about Kellogg and their programs, and then we're going to basically jump in and go live into the application. So just, this is out there, but September 10th is your round 1 deadline. So you want to mark that and work backwards and build that. Round 2, January 7th, round 3, April 1st. Kellogg, I think it's important. This is just pulled right from their website, but it's something that may give you some insight when you are thinking about Kellogg. What does Kellogg value, and how does Kellogg help people transform as leaders? They're looking for people with a high impact, high empathy perspective. I've heard people say, admissions people from Kellogg say, a Kellogg person will elevate everyone's presence in the room without making it all about them. So just really high EQ, empathy skills. Kellogg really is about creativity and innovation and looking for how to, get impact and find creative, innovative solutions. Collaboration made possible with empathy. So really empathy, Kellogg was one of the first business schools, really the first who's known on the map for collaboration and baking that into the process. So when you're answering your questions throughout this, you don't want to be I. You want to be thinking, how do I help make teams better? Intentionality with strong purpose. So that's just about, really sort of understanding who you are and understanding what you need to do to get where you want to go. And then finally, sort of an empowered network of support. So just know that Kellogg, really values inclusivity, community, empathy, all of these things. So really, you can go look at the website and you can kind of focus on that. But I think it really helps you before you even open the application and think about what you want to share to kind of ground yourself in how is Kellogg different and what kinds of things do I want to make sure come through in my application. And then just the other thing is Kellogg is pretty unique in that it has, I mean, it's a portfolio. You've got to really think about, there are a lot of options just, and this is just full-time MBA. There's also, executive MBA, weekend MBA, there's all kinds of offerings, but there's a 1-year program that's 4 quarters. Back in the old, back when I applied, I actually did the 4-quarter program and we called it the 4-quarter program, and I've had to adjust as we modernize to say that it's the 1-year. That is a program that's really specific for people who, one, have business coursework and usually undergraduate business major, although there's certain courses and you can go and look at the website and check to make sure that you qualify. But it's also for somebody who's not looking to make a major career change because you don't get the internship. You come in June and do the summer quarter, which is a fabulous time to be in Chicago or Evanston in the summer. And now you would be there with the 1-years and also with the MMM students that actually start a little bit earlier. So that's an option. Most people are going through the 2-year, that's 6 quarters. You do an internship. That's an option. The MBA is an MBA at the focus of basically AI and MBA and preparing people to be sort of leaders in AI. And that's actually, I didn't write that, but that's a 5-quarter program, I believe. There's the Triple M program, which has that design focus and a master's in design innovation along with the MBA. That's a very popular program and probably one of the most competitive programs to get into. And again, you start in the summer and then you go through, the full year internship and go through the 2nd year. The JD MBA is a joint MBA JD, MBA MD with MD, and then future leaders would be college seniors who are looking to lock in deferred enrollment to start at a future time. And one of the things that's also nice about, they've changed this a little, is, so you have to do a lot of research before you even, like, when you go to sign up for the application, you've got to kind of know a little bit about what's the best fit. One change that they've done over the years, which I think is great, is that you can submit for your first choice. So you should pick the one that you want the most. But then, for example, you might say, I'm going to do the Triple M. That's what I want to do. That's my first choice. But you can also select a second option, which might be, okay, if for some reason you don't think I'm a strong enough candidate for the Triple M, there's limited space for that. But we do think you'd be a good fit for the 2Y. You can go ahead and make that known. So you could do, I'm focusing on 2Y, but if again you think I'd be better fit, I could say I'm doing 1Y or whatever. So you do have some flexibility with that. I believe that's all I want to say about that before we actually jump in. So bear with me while I stop sharing for a minute, and then I'm going to actually share my screen and go right into the application. And let me just get a thumbs up from people. Are you seeing the application?
Yes, correct. All good.
Okay, good. All right. So now we just, kind of go in and let's just look at things. So basically you're going in and you have, this application information, right? So you have to, I sort of logged in and said, full-time here, but you basically, to change, you can select whichever one you want to do. This area of academic interest in terms of this is not something that I can tell you from working on the school side at one point, sometimes they ask this question just to get a little bit of planning purposes to see, okay, well, we've got a lot of people that are interested in asset management, or we might want to have more electives coming up or something. So don't agonize over this, but obviously, if you say that you want to do investment management and, you've checked, I don't know, social impact and, management science and managing organizations, it's a little bit of a disconnect. to the person reading it. So obviously these should essentially, match up, and you just want to check things that are logical to your resume and to your background. But this is not something you should lose a lot of sleep over this part. Do you have a pending application at another school? And you cannot be, applying to, well, certainly in the Kellogg part, you can't have like 2 live applications going at the same time. So that's really just kind of a check there, or, they may be curious to know if you're, perhaps there's some kind of joint program that you're looking at, like, JD or something like that, or MD. So you just answer that as you have it. And then, have you previously applied to any program at Kellogg? And if you check yes, and that means you have, that's going to kick in that you actually have to then do a short essay that you will then have to answer of how have you improved. And essentially for that, when I used to read applications for UNC, the first thing I do is, and in some cases the essays have changed. I mean, this is the second year now of the new essays, but so let's say you applied last year. If they're the same questions this year and you're applying again and you're trying to pawn off the same answers, that's a no-go. Like, don't do that. You've got to refresh. Now, that doesn't mean that your goals have to change radically, and they probably shouldn't change radically if it's just a year, but you want to think about, how am I stronger professionally? So have I taken on a new role? Have I gotten a promotion? Have I added something new that is new since I last applied? Have I improved quantitatively? Did I get a higher test score? Is there something in my profile? Did I take an extra course? Did I demonstrate that I now have increased, ability to do well in the program? And then, sort of in your general leadership, do you have some kind of new impact in an extracurricular? Have you learned something more about why you want to do what you say you want to do? So that's basically, if you are in that reapplicant pool, make sure that you are showing some self-awareness of what might I have needed to do to be stronger, and show them how you've done that. So that's kind of, and let me pause here a little bit just to see, Nicholas, is there any questions that seem like relevant that we should jump in yet, or should we just keep going?
Not yet. I think that we can continue then.
All righty. So now we're going to go into the next section here, and this is personal background. So, you go in, you give them your name, now the preferred name is, so in my case, it's easy. I'm Donna. My nickname is Donna. Everybody I know calls me Donna. Nobody calls me anything else. If you had a nickname, you could put it, here so that they know. But and I think there's somewhere else a very particular thing where your name needs to match your passport. So you need to really, the official given name you need to take seriously. Don't, make up a nickname there. If you want to put your preferred name, put it there. So that's I think the key thing here. So supplemental information. This is just, let's see, highest education that you have, blah, 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 master's degree, bachelor's. Oh, this is for your parents. Sorry. So this is a way that they can tell if you're first gen college, right? And again, just be honest in that. And if you feel like, well, gosh, my, I don't know, there's something that isn't quite right. Like, I don't know, your parents did go to college, but they really didn't, or something. I don't know. You can always explain it in the optional essay. But here I would just say this gives them, they want to see your journey of what kind of household you came into. And obviously, if you come from a family where, your parents both had master's degrees, they're going to feel like that journey for you to MBA is shorter than someone who's got parents who didn't complete high school. But don't read your application. This is more just giving them insight. This is not like the meat and potatoes. So just answer it as it is. Occupation of your parents, you can kind of find the best one that fits. If you were raised, this is again a chance for them to see if you had any kind of extenuating circumstances or just something that would give insight into who you are. You can check those kinds of things. Primary language. This is sometimes people, like if you were having to like be financially responsible for a sibling or a parent or something like that, that also informs maybe you're not going to have as many extracurricular activities. So these are just things that will give them insight. But again, don't just answer it. Don't worry too much about it. And then if you are applying with a significant other or a spouse, you can write that there. All right. Then we get to the professional experience. And now we're starting to get into, big things here. And you basically want to put in all of the organizations that you've worked for. And I believe in this one, some applications, some schools will tell you that, let's say you worked at Procter & Gamble and you had like 3 promotions. In this case, I don't think they specify, so you could actually list your 3 roles, right, within the same company. Sometimes they will tell you, you could, one list for each company, and they are saying you can only do 5, but you want to, so kind of just take it into account here, but you want to add the employer, add the title, and kind of a little bit, and this just to give you the details here, you can put the organization, you can put, a telephone, and, I doubt that they're going to be able to do much with that. It might just be, I don't even think a lot of companies have telephones that you can reach anymore, but, do your best to put whatever what you can find in there. Again, these job start dates and end dates, super important, because at the end, once you get accepted, hopefully all of you people who are on this call and watching are actually really on the ball and doing everything right. So, I'm assuming you all are strong contenders. When you get accepted, you're going to have some kind of a background Revera check or one of those companies that does something. So if you are inconsistent and you say the wrong date, and when they're doing their check, it doesn't match, potentially that's a flag that could blow up the whole thing. So don't just guess, like go back and look, oh, I started this date. And again, this is going back to all your dates, LinkedIn, resume, application, they all need to be together so that you present yourself as a organized, consistent applicant. And I say this like it's everybody does this, and it's just sometimes it's a detail thing, but you can get this right because so get this right. All right. And then you just, put in your title, you put in, and you do the best you can. In some cases, if you have a situation where you have maybe a lot of commission, or you had, you worked a certain number of months, I think you just put in on an annualized form, basis, you just kind of do the best. And again, if there's something that it's hard to explain, then you can always just write that in the optional statement, something about, I said this, but here's my rationale. You put in your job function, you put in the industry, so you basically have a drop-down menu. Basically, put the best thing that seems to fit. And job function, again, that direct reports, you can do that. If there's some, grayness to this, I think just put in what and you can always again put, I supervised 5 people on this project, but I didn't have any direct reports. You could always clarify that somewhere or something. Description of duties. So here's where, you really, and this is where the resume and this are different. This description is more explaining the role, and you have 240 characters, not words. So that's, your resume should really be your greatest hits of your results. So remember, these things kind of should work synergistically as the admissions person's reading this to see, okay, this is kind of what my role is, but in my resume, I'm seeing what I did the best. Reason for leaving, you want to give some reason. If you'd say your current position, you can just say, current position. You could say, planning to leave with MBA or something like that, but basically answer like that. Oh, and then let's see, I didn't finish all my fields, but let's see if it lets me back out of this. Cancel. Okay, let's go forward. Do you have an offer to return? If you do, and not that many people do, but if you do, then that's great. You can check this, but don't put this, and it's good they give you a like, yes, but not sure. So that's more of a, I have it, but it's probably one of those things where maybe you will pay your employer back if you decide not to return or something like that, or if it's pending. Just be clear, but do not put yes if you don't. And if you do put yes here, your recommenders should probably be vouching for that. I didn't really ever believe somebody when they just put it here. I needed to see it confirmed. So your recommender, if you're sponsored, your recommender should be saying that, and partially probably why you're so fabulous that you got that. If you don't have it, most people don't worry about it. It's fine. I will say that sometimes if you're applying to the 1Y program, where they really want to make sure, the risk of the 1Y program is that you don't do the internship, and maybe you're not going to like launch well in recruiting. So sometimes if you are sponsored, and you like, when I did my program, there are a lot of consultants from European countries, and McKinsey consultants and various consultants that were sponsored, and they knew they were here for a year. And when you think about it from an admission standpoint, that's like, oh, you're like, that's great. You're no risk. Like, I know this person has a job. I don't have to worry about the risk of the 1Y. So in applying to 1Y, having that sponsorship could be a plus, and might make it so that if you're such a great fit, because not everybody is, maybe they are going to be a little bit more lenient on what your test scores are or something like that, because the driver of that program is really that you're just accelerating your career. But nevertheless, most people are going to say no. It's totally fine. You're not like bad if you don't like, it's totally fine. But that's just some things to think about. You want to put in, how many years of work experience. Family business is actually could be really interesting, even if you're not planning to immediately go back. Kellogg has a really strong family business center, and sometimes having a family business option, and sometimes can be really helpful if you do know that that might be something in your future, to reach out to people at the family business center, because you in some ways are a customer to the family business offerings. So if you think that you at some point might want to connect on family business, might be smart for you to kind of think about that, but certainly check yes here. And it could be a little bit of a soft plus, right? In that that's just something else in your profile. But again, you just answer, they're just trying to get information. You want to upload your resume. I would upload it as a PDF just to make sure that it wasn't like nothing got wonky about your formatting, things like that. And then have you work, this is just if you are, going to need to submit a test of English proficiency for non-native speakers. They want to know if you've worked in the US or an English speaking country for 2 consecutive years within the last 5 years. And that might give them some insight, or maybe give some, lessen the impact of just something that would be positive if you have that. Financial sponsorship. I think sometimes people get stressed about this one because they feel like, oh, if I put, oh, well, not this one, but, well, actually, will you be receiving any financial support from your employer? And let's see, just, yes, no, pending, you could put whatever. Sometimes there is a question, I think, where they ask about financial aid, and that I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'll save that. But, you know, I will say, I don't know for sure how they would look at, if you are getting a lot of financial support, it might impact their thinking about scholarships that they need to give you or something like that. But again, I think I would just really take all this at face value and answer the questions to the best of what is true for your situation, and don't worry so much about it. Now the career goals, this part, now we're getting to the the fun, the super fun here. So I think it's really important when I work with people on, doing their essays, I want them to bring this stuff in to their outline because you don't want to share. They actually ask a question about your motivations in the essay, and then they ask it again here. So you want to make sure that these things are additive and not repetitive. So it's important to kind of be aware of that. But basically here it's just drop down. Again, you put the best thing that you think you want to do, industry and function, the motivation. So you want to, give sort of a moment or it could be that, I had a client who had a lot of um, uh, personal experience with fires, and unfortunately, like, gosh, we're natural disasters as we speak. There's tsunamis coming across different parts of the world, and if anybody's in that, I'm wishing the best for you and hoping everyone stays safe. But like, if you experience some kind of natural, climate related something, and then that informed why you were interested in working in, clean energy or working in, climate solutions or something. That could be useful. You want to share something that helps, there's only so many desired industries and functions that you can go into. You differentiate yourself by sharing what is unique to you as to how it is that what's your unique motivation, what's memorable, so that someone can understand your story. And then this is fairly new question to add in here, where it's, what does a successful career look like 5 years after you graduate? So they're asking you to kind of think about, what are you gaining in that first MBA role, and where do you want to go from there? So you're getting a good chance to share some things. And remember, if you're sharing some things here, you don't have to share, you don't have to exactly repeat it in the essay question, and we'll get to the essays in a minute. So just remember, these things all work synergistically, and when you're the admissions person reading them, you don't want to read the same thing twice. That's a missed opportunity. So really think in each place, okay, if I told them this here, how can I nuance or give a little bit more depth or additive in the actual essays? If you ever served in the military, you answer that, and if you have, thank you for your service. Any awards, so you want to go ahead and note what the award is. You can list up to 4. I don't think you have to stress if you only have 3, if you have 2. In some cases, the award, it can be something, and there's a description. So it could be something that you're proud, like what the award is and why you're proud of it, could tell them more about you. So that's an opportunity there to share a little bit more. But again, if you feel like you don't have 4, you don't have to stress about that. All right, the institutions piece you put in, and this is actually a case where right up, they actually straight up ask you again, are you first gen? So if you are, you can check that here and you check it there. You add your institutions, the dates, pay attention. Transcripts for study abroad or transfer programs are not required if the grades are included in your transcript. But if they're not on your transcript, so this is something where reading the fine print, you don't want to hold up your application waiting on a transcript from, your study abroad that you did 8 years ago, and now you got to figure out how to get in touch with this institution. So like, look at your transcript now. If there's stuff, if or you took some summer school course, your first year of college, you got to dig up get that transcript. So these are the kinds of things, looking at the application now, you don't want to find this out 2 days before the deadline, right? So look at that, make sure you get what you need, put it in. This is just for Northwestern. If you received a Master of Science in Management Studies or a Master in Management degree from Kellogg, I believe that there may be opportunities for some of those people to be able to, for example, finish then and do the 1-year MBA. So that would be something that they're asking, so you can check on that. Professional certifications are always, great to have if you have them. So This tells, if you did the, certified financial planner, that's something that's pretty well respected and, a lot of work that's, or actually the chartered financial analyst actually, but both are fine. That's going to also potentially be like, okay, if they're not seeing great test scores, they're okay, I see that this person, that's going to give me some confidence that they can handle the quantitative rigor of the program because they went through CFA certification. And that's, a pretty rigorous. So any of these kinds of things could just help build your quantitative profile. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. It's not something like if someone says, well, gosh, I'm almost to the CFA. Should I just 100% go all in CFA and not do any GMAT or GRE? No, do that. If you can show it in the GMAT or the GRE, that's where you should show it. But this is like icing on the cake. And if you have it, that's great. And you should share it. And it might be helpful if you don't have the strong quantitative support somewhere else. All right. Then you put in your scores. So your test, add your test. You don't have to have, I believe you can just upload an unofficial score. And then, before you matriculate, you're going to have an official score. So we do that. And now we get to, but so you see, like there's a lot of stuff that Kellogg will know about you even before you get to the essays. So the essays are important, but the whole thing is important. So now this question, and I thought they were going to change it. I find this question to be it's a lot, right? Because they're asking 5 things. They're asking, help us understand your motivation for an MBA. That's 1. The specific goals you want to achieve. That's 2. Why now? That's 3. Why Kellogg? That's 4. And how you're going to add value to Kellogg's community. That's 5. So you have all of that in 450 words. That is a lot. And that works out to, and you shouldn't do it this way because you don't need, some parts I think are more important than others. But in theory, you have like 90 words to kind of touch upon each one. I would say that they really do want to, don't overlook the why now. That's something that Kellogg wants to know. Again, because you have that other place to say some of the motivations, you may be able to say a little less or just say it differently so that it's additive when you're talking about your motivations. Again, they ask some of the goals already, but you can, I think you should still address it, but again, address it in a way that has symbiosis with your short answers. Why now? And then, why is Kellogg a great place for you? So that's where you want to mention maybe a couple of resources, and be specific, and don't just list like 10 clubs and don't say anything why, or 10 classes. You might mention something about a particular pathway or, a major or particular clubs, but try to add at least a sentence or 2 of support for anything that you say. They already know what they offer. So you telling them that they have a great, that the Kellogg ad review, program is, you're looking forward to, without saying why or how it might help you and what you need to do, is useless. They don't, you don't need what's an AI can, list all these classes and clubs, but it's useless unless you tell them how it helps you. And that's where you really do have to, this is personal to everybody, right? So 2 people could list the exact same classes and clubs, but they'll be different because you would have different motivations, different reasons why those are useful. So you want to share that. And then you don't have a lot of room, but you want to at least give one example of how you're going to contribute. How are you going to give back to Kellogg? So think of an area where you have some kind of expertise. Maybe you ran a mentorship program in school. You did a school's kind of mentorship program or something. And, Kellogg has some really good uh, partnerships with Chicago schools, and you might be able to really add value to some of the some one of the programs. So, but mention a specific program, and this is a place where you can demonstrate how you've done a little bit of homework. So maybe talk to a student in a club that you're interested in, get a sense of what they've done, and then how you can add value given your own unique experience. So that's how I would approach number one. And you'll notice careful observers will notice that they ask for 450 words, right? They say that's the limit, and yet they give you a text box that goes up to 480. So you could shove in all the way up to 480, and it'll take it. But, in the spirit of that, if you have both of your things maxed up to 480, I feel like that's like, hey, you're not really following directions. It'll take it, but you're also telling them that so I would say, I think the reason they do that is they don't want you agonizing over, if you're 453 or 455 words, I don't think you have to lose sleep. You can put it in as it is. But I don't think if you're at 479, I think you should maybe look at doing another pass of how you can trim it, just so you show that you're a person who can follow directions. And then I like question 2 much more because I think that this question allows you to share more about who you are. And this is a case of a difficult decision you had to make. And, one of the things that, go back and look again at some of those, high impact, high empathy, or, how you have impact, how you're collaborative, how you're intentional. Keep those in mind, but the decision, it should be a difficult decision. So that means if it's like a decision you're describing and it's like the only decision you had, then it's not difficult. So it should be clear, like what was at stake? Were you worried that your manager was going to find out about something? Like you were worried you were going to alienate yourself. You were having to go against a person that you really respected. Tell us why, and tell us the values, right? Tell the values that you're guided by inclusion, you're guided by empathy, you're guided by excellence, whatever, and then really give an example that's explaining it. I don't think you want to try to tackle more than one experience. They're saying a professional experience, and yet they're then also saying Kellogg leaders are primed to tackle challenges everywhere from the boardroom to their neighborhood. So I would say you have latitude potentially to use, it could be an extracurricular. I would say, nudge on to the professional, but if you have really significant extracurricular and it makes sense and it's some kind of a professional activity in some way, then that could be fine. I don't think that's the crux of it. I think the crux of it is, you know, a decision, right? And they used to have things where it was like a recent thing. They don't mention recent, but I would not probably go back more than 2 years. If you talk about a decision you made 6 years ago, that's a long way away. You're not giving them the latest of who you are now. So I would keep that in mind. And then this is your sort of catch-all, additional information. And this is really a case where I don't think you need to, you shouldn't try to make this another essay, but, if there's a gap in employment, if there's, you don't feel like your test scores accurately reflect your ability, you had something happen in, your academics, and you're not making excuses, but you want to give the context. Hey, I was sick during college. During this semester, it impacted my grades. Again, don't try to make it about taking away blame or not having accountability. But, if I know that someone was in a car accident one semester and their grades were bad, I'm like, I get it. And that's all I don't have to want, you don't want the admissions person wondering what happened that semester. Just let them know if it's needed. Now, at the same time, you don't need to write some optional essay because you have a C. Like you don't have to like be perfect. You don't have to worry about like explaining every little thing. And, in fact, I think it could reflect poorly if you're like, oh, I got a B in one class and I need to, blah, blah, blah. Like you don't need to do that. But it's there to give you things. And again, you have 280 words, but if you can say it in a sentence, say it in a sentence. Nobody wants to read any more than they have to read. So just, write it bullet point or just explain whatever it is. Or if you're not having your recommender be your current supervisor, explain why. And there are plenty of good reasons why. You're worried about your job. The person hasn't managed you that long, whatever. This is a
Sorry
case
to
where you get
interrupt,
to
Dana.
add activities. And
Donna?
again, this is a place where details matter. So,
Donna, sorry.
oh, sure. I'm going too long. Yes. All right. I better
Yeah,
speed
sorry.
up.
We have
Okay.
only 3 minutes left. Is it okay
Okay.
if
All
we
right.
use like the time like for some questions?
Yes. I think we got to pretty much everything. It shows you there's just lots in here. But yes, why don't we get to questions for the last bit?
Yeah, sure. That was the important part. So getting
Yep.
full. Yeah. So the first question is, as someone applying from abroad, do you think it's more valuable to visit MBA campuses or attend admission events held virtually or in your country?
So if you can go to an event that's virtual, if you can go to an event where someone's coming to your country and you can reasonably get there, even if it means you travel like an hour or two or something, that's great. Nobody's expecting, especially in a post-COVID world, no one is expecting that everybody has to do that. So if you can't, just doing virtual, going online, is all fine. That's fine. Do what you want to do something. So at least do something virtual.
Okay. Does 3-year undergrad impact our applications?
Does what?
3-year undergrad.
Pre,
No,
pre.
three.
So anything that happened before you graduated from your undergrad is really not that important. Like what you did in high school or what you did, like you don't need to be
Sorry, I
putting,
mean 3-year.
I'm
3-year
sorry, say what?
3-year undergrad.
3-year. Oh, so if you have a 3-year degree instead of a 4-year
Yeah.
degree kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
So that I'm not off the top of my head. Schools will tell you like they will take it or they won't take it. And so what I would say is if you have a 3-year degree, there's usually a frequently asked question part or a section where you should just ask. Like, no point in going through all this. Make sure that your degree is a degree that they will take. Yeah.
Okay, great. So another question is, should the optional essay focus on our parents' background? If yes, how does the strengthen the application?
So I think the optional essay really shouldn't be in this case another essay. It's really just if you have something that really helps them to understand your story or some part of your story. If there was a work gap, grades problem, test problem, recommender choice kind of thing.
Okay, great. And this is going to be the last question. Sorry, we don't have more
Oh,
time.
no. Yes.
So this one is, I have a gap year. Can I ask for recommendations from my past employers? Should I explain this in an optional essay?
So yeah, so if you have two recommendations, right? So if one of them is not your direct supervisor, you need to tell them why. And that could be because they didn't supervise me that long, because they don't support me getting an MBA and I'm worried about job opportunities or whatever. If it's someone who worked with you previously, ideally maybe they supervised you previously or they supervised you on a project. That's fine. I would try to keep your recommenders to people who've probably seen you in some cases in the last 2 to 3 years.
Okay, great. So that's it. So thank you so
Okay.
much, Donna. Thank you
Sure,
all
I know.
for
I'm so
joining.
sorry that I was so, it just shows you there's a lot of stuff, but I think we got to the most important pieces. And if there are more questions actually, and people want to, follow up, we do have like I have free consultations through our Stratus site, and I don't think I have it live, but if you go to our Stratus website and do free consultation and look for me, you can, get on my calendar and I can answer whatever questions are left. But hopefully this gives you a great start for filling this out.
Great. Again, a big thank you for Donna for the valuable insights and guidance. We hope this session helps you feel more confident as you prepare for your application. So best of luck, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. So again, thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.